Okay, so today I want to begin on the last part of book 11. That's the part on globalization. Yeah, so the first part of book 11, we mentioned things about trade. So we spoke about the theory of comparative advantage, we spoke about the benefits and costs of trade, and then we also spoke about the factors that determine a country's comparative advantage. Then after the next part, we moved on into protectionism. So for protectionism, we spoke about the tariff diagram, yeah, and then we also talked about the benefits and costs of protectionism. For example, there's trade laws, but then sometimes it's justified because there's infant industry or if there's dumping. Yeah. So today I want to talk about the last part. So this last part is literally called globalization, and there are two big parts to this. So the first one is the factors that enable globalization, okay, and the next part is the benefits and costs of globalization. So today I want to do essay question 1A on page 74. So the one on page 74, this particular essay talks about the factors that enable globalization. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the essay. So this essay asks you two different factors that have enabled globalization to occur. So this is a standard, this is a 10 mark essay, so this is 10 plus 0. And if you just want to unpack it into the requirement, it's quite that straightforward. So requirement 1 would be that is one factor affecting enabling. It's just one factor enabling globalization to occur. And then R2 would be just another factor enabling globalization to occur. Okay, so we'll run through two different factors here. Okay, let's start off with maybe a definition first for globalization. So globalization is the increased integration of economies around the world through the movement of goods and services, through movement of goods and services, capital and labor across international borders. Okay, so I want to just slow down on the definition first, yeah. So you realize, right, if you really read the definition very closely, you will notice this, right, that globalization and there are three different facets to it. The first facet is the movement of goods and services. So this is number one, right? It involves the movement of capital, number two, and it involves the movement of labor, number three, across international borders. So the difference between a question that asks you for globalization versus a question that asks you for trade is that if the question uses the term globalization, it means you need to talk about all three facets. Okay, so just make a note, all three facets. The three facets are goods and services, capital or FDI, okay, FDI, or labor, or labor. Yeah, so you must talk about these three facets whenever a question asks you for globalization. Yeah. Okay, so then let's start on the first factor. So you want a factor, right? You want a factor that will help you increase the movement of goods and services, help you increase the movement of capital, and what helps you increase the movement of labor. Okay, ideally, if you cannot find a factor that can capture all three, it's fine. Then in your second factor, you just capture the rest. Okay, so maybe in the first factor, I can only capture 1 and 2. And then the second factor, maybe I'll capture 2 and 3. Okay, just so long as all three sum up in the end, your whole essay covers all the factors, then you should be fine. Okay, so let's start on the first one. So I'm going to say that one factor that affects globalization is the state of technology. Okay, so R1, I'm going to use technology. Okay, so one factor that has enabled globalization is improved technology. Okay, so maybe I'll just label each of them. So this one, let's call it goods and services. Let's call it number 1. Then capital, let's call it number 2, and then labor, let's call it number 3. Okay, so my factor, I'm going to start off with technology helps me move goods and services. Technology to goods and services first. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through lower transport costs. So if you have better technology, transport costs tend to be lower. And if you remember one of the assumptions of the theory of comparative advantage was that you assume that transport costs were 0. So the closer you get to those assumptions, very, very low transport costs, or transport costs in comparison to the value of the cargo you are moving is very, very low, then there's a tendency for more gains from the theory of comparative advantage. Yeah, so that's why you enable trade. Okay, so first one, I'm going to say that technological advancements helped to lower transport costs significantly. Okay, so let's talk about airplanes. So modern cargo airplanes are more fuel efficient. Fuel efficient and has made transport of goods and services across countries much faster. Okay, so that's one. And then also we have emergence of container shipping. So container shipping helps or allows companies to reap internal economies of scale. Yeah. So the emergence of container shipping has allowed logistics companies to reap IEOS, that internal economies of scale, that lower the average cost of transportation. Okay, so this will encourage countries to specialize according to CA and encourage more trade and movement of goods and services, enabling globalization. Okay, so this is the first one. Technology can lead to movement of goods and services. This is one. Technology can also help you with movement of capital. Yeah, so maybe let's just do capital. Let's use blue. Okay, so technology. Okay, so technological advancement has also reduced, sorry, this is to number 2. So has also reduced the coordination costs and difficulties for companies seeking to offshore or to outsource their operations. Right, so MNCs, foreign MNCs, can now relocate their production facilities and monitor them, and monitor their operations without, okay, they can actually do it remotely, operations remotely without having to be physically present. Okay, so here in R1 I'll touch base with goods and services and capital with technology. Okay,